This Guy's Garage. Like and subscribe.
Very simply, I've talked to tons of people in recovery who told me that when they were in active addiction, they didn't want safe drugs, they wanted good drugs. And they would trade any prescription or good, safe drugs they had to get better drugs. And they say that safe supply is an absolutely bad idea that will make the problem worse. What do you say to these people?
I'm saying that 40 years ago, people said the same thing about methadone. 20 years ago, people said the same thing about Suboxone. That we are moving, and more recently, things like hydromorphone, Dilaudid, there are very good stories of people being able to get off fentanyl by Dilaudid, by other diacetylmorphine that I saw in...
Thank you, Minister. So pharmaceutical companies like Purdue were sued and doctors went to jail for their role in causing the opioid addiction crisis. What will happen should pharmaceutical companies and doctors that are potentially will be causing harm with this so-called safe supply, will the same thing be happening 10 or 20 years from now?
Absolutely, and that's what the colleges of physicians and surgeons are doing. That's what the colleges of pharmacies are doing. But I wanted to say, in that anecdote about that, in the clients that I saw last week in Kelowna, who were getting injectable diacetylmorphine, it is not possible to divert that. And so we actually have to do what it takes to keep people alive long enough to get to recovery.
So, to just shift gears a little bit, what evidence is available on the impact of legalization of recreational use of cannabis on health?
This is an ongoing study. I think that as we've talked before, the use of cannabis in youth has not gone up, and that we are being able to see that for
Thank you,
seniors
Minister.
and others, that it's been helpful.
Minister, when will there be a legislative review on the Cannabis Act available to parliamentarians and Canadians?
What is the date? This fall? This fall, yeah.
And you can commit to that?
Absolutely. It's a legislative review.
So Mr. Johns touched on the fact that so many families are having to mortgage their house, having to go into crazy debt just to put their family into treatment. How much of the SUAP funding is going towards abstinence-based treatment, percentage-wise, or dollars?
So a lot of the SUAP money, you are quite right, is going to harm reduction and safe supply and innovative project. Treatment tends to be the responsibility of provinces and territories. That's why that extra money in the CHT will really matter. So why the $100 million
Minister, why don't
British Columbia that was in the last budget to be able to go to treatment? Or $1 billion, I think the minister got there.
Thank you, Minister.
Okay, so what criteria are being used to measure the success of BC's decriminalization pilot project?
Okay, there are 6 criteria that were part of the application.
What are they?
The increased in health and social services, continued stakeholder engagement, public education, law enforcement, engagement with Indigenous peoples, and robust evaluation and research as we go forward.
So do you commit to stopping decriminalization should these outcomes not be achieved?
Absolutely. We have always said that if this isn't working, both on the public health indicators and the public safety indicators, we will be watching those. What was really interesting on the safe supply study that was in the CMAJ this year is that decreased visits to emerge, decreased paramedic visits, all of these things that have been part of that London, Ontario project. It's very exciting.
Thank you, Minister.
Minister, there's been countless reports of a huge amount of diversion out of London, and you keep holding London up as if that's somehow the solution. And everything I've heard, I'm looking forward to going to London in a couple weeks, but There's a large amount of diversion. What are you specifically doing to prevent diversion?
The focus is to keep people alive.
But what are you
so they can
specifically
get
doing to
treatment.
prevent diversion?
I think that we are monitoring that. People are monitoring that people are
So there's
making
nothing
sure that
specific being done?
Sorry, Leo?
Go ahead and finish your answer. That's the last question. Go ahead, Dr. Bennett.
This is in a comprehensive assessment of all of these safe supply projects. Diversion has always been something that people look at, and it is being tracked.
Over to the Conservatives. One question.
Well, thank you, Chair. Appreciate your flexibility with this. Minister, what we know is that in 2016, 18, and 23, the numbers of overdose deaths have been increasing. This decriminalization experiment, as one of my colleagues has called it, has been ongoing now for at least 2 years in deference to what my NDP colleague said. How many deaths per day are enough to stop your failed experiment?
I would say that I would disagree with you totally on this. The Office of Public Prosecution asked people to stop charging people years ago. This has been going on for a long time. It isn't that we have to take the stigma down, get people to treatment, and it's not the failed experiment. It's that the drug supply is totally toxic and poisoned with fentanyl, now benzodiazepam, the naloxone isn't working as well, now with xylazine, that this is a toxic supply, and we have to get people to stay alive long enough to be able to get to treatment or live a better life. This is nothing to do with decriminalization. Cops have been not charging people for years now.